So today's webinar is what is a security assessment and do you need one? So before we get going too far down the actual topic matter today, I just wanted to get everybody that has been attending these series of webinars. This will be a refresher for you, but anybody that's joining us new or for the first time, just a quick plug for a very handy utility that we created internally called iSafeSend that provides a safe and secure manner of sharing sensitive information that's encrypted and utilizes a one-time link, and best of all, it's free for everyone to use. So try it and you'll definitely love it. Okay, let's get going. So the agenda for today, here's the items that we're covering, and it's going to be at a high level. We're not going to get into too much detail and nitty-gritty. This is more so to get the concepts and the ideas across. Again, if anybody has any deeper requirements or requests for information, by all means, we'd be happy to provide that. Have a telephone call, have an in-person meeting, go through anything that you would like to have addressed. So, and today's topic matter again is provided to give you a general awareness of the topics. There's a lot of technical detail that can be covered, and again, we can and will if you so choose, but this is a high-level overview. So, what is a security assessment? Security assessment is a periodic exercise that tests your organization's security preparedness. And they include checks for vulnerabilities in your IT systems and business processes, as well as recommendation to steps to follow to lower the risk of future attacks. So how prepared is your organization? So if you have antivirus software to protect your business data today, maybe you also have firewalls and encryption technology. So if you think that you can now just sit back and relax and think that this is the end-all be-all for malicious cyber attacks, then you're sorely mistaken, unfortunately. The security aspect of IT is a very vast area, and there are many aspects to security and ensuring you're protected from potential security breaches. Today, we'll be covering a small area and providing you general reasons why and some of the what. So, if your IT security strategy relies solely on installing an antivirus software and no further checks or training, you're vulnerable for attack. It's only a matter of time before your company may fall victim to a data breach that can put your organization or your customers at risk of identity theft, data loss, property theft, intellectual property theft, and potentially many other forms of professional and personal loss. And your business may be the one left up to pick up the pieces and in some instances bear the cost. So here's some past examples of items in the news that you may or may not have heard about. One of the ones that actually transpired just last month, and no, it's not the Capital One, it's actually another one. In August of 2019, it was reported that a group of hackers have stolen the credit card information of more than 1 million US and South Korean credit cards. Disturbingly enough, it appears that hackers have learned that South Korean payment infrastructure is especially vulnerable to attacks, which resulted in a massive breach, and that is still currently unfolding. And again, in this year, several months ago, a data breach of Capital One's credit card servers in March exposed the personal information of nearly 106 million of the bank's customers and applicants. The hack, which included US and Canadian customers of the banking and credit card company. In 2017, Equifax became a victim of one of the costliest data breaches of all time. It was estimated at over 400 million. And hackers preyed on vulnerabilities in its web application framework to gain access to the confidential data of more than 143 million customers in the US. 2013, yes, we're going back a ways, but cybersecurity is going back a ways as well. In 2013, hackers infiltrated Target's, so Target, the American chain, their network by sending a third-party vendor a phishing email, which ultimately compromised 110 million credit card and debit card user details. The retailer estimates the total cost of the breach was around 290 million. That's in US funds. So if larger firms such as Capital One, Equifax, and Target that spend millions of dollars on their IT infrastructure and security can fall victim to cyber attacks. Is your business really safe? Maybe give that a quick thought. And to mitigate the risk of cyber attacks, you must also build a culture of information security within your organization. So the culture is really all your users, your management from top down or from bottom level up. Everybody has to buy into this culture, and it is actually one of the best defenses to cyber attacks. So please consider the following. 62% of cyber attacks target small to medium businesses because of their systems. They're usually easier to infiltrate. And 1 in 3 small businesses have no security appliances, software, controls in place to prevent potential attacks. 60% of small and medium businesses conducted a security assessment after an actual breach. So it was an after the fact exercise, which unfortunately is the case in a majority of the time. The average cost of a data breach for a small and medium business is between $35,000 to $50,000, but the total cost could be significantly more when factoring related costs, such as potential fines from your vendors or customers, recovery efforts, loss of clientele, loss of reputation, etc. You may have the best security software installed in the organization, but determining the hackers or a careless employee is all it takes to bring the whole system down. Technology is a piece of the solution, but it's not the sole solution. A large component of securing your environment is user awareness and training. So for example, the web root security awareness training campaign that we've run for several of our clients is a great example of how it's actually a practical application of sending out phishing, mock phishing attack. It's a fake phishing attack, and it tracks who the emails were sent to and then who clicks on the links requesting any type of template that we can utilize, that being Office 365 credentials to any of the Amazons, to anything that your mind can create. We can make the template to fit that. And at the end of, if one of the users does actually click, it notifies them that this is just simply an exercise, and they can actually take some online training that provides them some additional insights. From the campaigns we've run several in the past about 6 months or so. They've been fairly successful. And one of the ones that actually stood out a little bit was some of the people at the organization we ran it to took the responsibility and ran with it. So we usually run about 3 or 4 campaigns through a period of a month. We'll send out for however many emails different times of the month. And we can track all that. And they actually took it to themselves to start making other users aware as soon as they saw anything that came into their inbox that looked suspicious or malicious. And the scores of the from the start of the campaign to the end of the campaign was significantly reduced. And it really showed some employee ownership of ensuring that their environment was protected, which is good to see. So here are a few more important reasons and figures as to why you should be conducting a regular security assessment if you're on the cloud. So by 2022, 80% of small and medium businesses will have fully adopted cloud computing. So while most of the major cloud providers follow standard security procedures, you will still need to remain vigilant. So Gartner research predicts that over the next 4 years, at least 95% of cloud security failures will be the fault of end users, not the provider or the IT service provider. But however, adopting a cloud visibility and control tools, such as dashboards for monitoring cloud usage, will significantly reduce occurrences of security failures. Now, this is as long as you know what you're looking for. If you do not, please have somebody that does know what they're looking for and have those alerts come up. Have the people that are monitoring that understand. One of the other reasons is to ensure compliance with regulatory bodies. Some of you may be part of a larger regulatory body that you have to adhere to certain security aspects. A lot of these are in the manufacturing, the financial, and other areas, medical, other areas like that. So regulatory bodies like HIPAA, FISMA, GDPR, PCI, and keeping up with these regulations as you need to can feel like an endless task. So many of these require regular security assessments to ensure that you pass the third-party audits and are necessary, which are necessary for compliance and certification in order to remain within that body. To keep up with the new threats, today technology changes happen very rapidly. According to Gartner's report, there's different approaches to security assessments, which are not necessary because of emerging technologies, or which, pardon me, are necessary for emerging technologies like Internet of Things, IoT, virtualizations, consumerization, bring your own device, BYOD, big data, and the whole mobile revolution. And to detect security breaches. Often companies are not aware of a security breach until the hacker demands ransom or confidential information starts circulating in the public domain, which is the worst thing that can happen most likely. And the security assessment can help identify breaches more quickly. The faster you identify and contain the data breach, the lower your cost and potential collateral will be. So cost of protection must be weighed against the cost of a breach. If you're running a business, anybody that has any sensitive information does not want to share that with the rest of the world. This is definitely a weighing that you have to factor into what your annual, monthly, yearly budget is for protection and what methods you employ in order to try and ensure that all your data is protected. Does not get out into the public domain. So many businesses will enlist the services of a third party to conduct a security assessment because they do not have the necessary experience or knowledge internally. So this is not a reflection of your abilities or capabilities. It's more of a there's so much to know, and so much to explore that it's very hard to keep on top of it, everything. So outsourcing to a third party to have a second set of eyes is never a bad idea. And although it will bear an expense, receiving an assessment by a firm that can have and has extensive knowledge in this field can provide a second set of eyes, like I mentioned, and on your security controls and that are currently in place, and potential risks and vulnerabilities, and make recommendations as to how to mitigate or completely remove those risks. The cost of the security assessment can range anywhere from $1,000 to, sky's the limit, but around $50,000 range. That's a shocking sticker shock or price, but depends on the size of your business and the complexity of your operations and the scope of the assessment as well. Bringing in a third party to assess your security posture on a less frequent basis is still a good practice. This will not only enable you to capture gaps, but it will also help to stay compliant with regulations. Your security assessment should broadly include two components. It's a security review, a collaborative process that includes identifying security issues and their level of risk, as well as preparing a plan to mitigate these risks. So security testing is the second one. And they include the process of finding vulnerabilities in hardware and software applications, as well as processes. Some of the tools that are regularly used are cyber attack simulation testing, which is authorized by yourself to simulate an attack on your computer systems, your IT infrastructure, and help identify the weaknesses as well as the strengths of your existing system. For example, as I mentioned earlier, the phishing simulation tool, like the Web Security Assessment training tool that we offer, can help identify risky employee behavior while training them to spot scam emails. And again, this is one of the best and easiest and cheapest lines of defense is your employees. Security scanning, the use of a security software to run a complete scan of application networks devices to identify threats and risks. A lot of this could be, say, for example, for your Wi-Fi environment, for your ports that may be open external and internally, etc. Also, this can include, well, the next one actually, vulnerability scanning. It's often difficult to spot the gaps of potential vulnerabilities in a system that you use on a daily basis. So scanning things like outdated versions of software, Active Directory management, tools and identify users with weak domain passwords. Pardon me. And just as an example, in 2018, 81% of security breaches leveraged stolen or weak passwords. So by Trojan attacks or trying different versions of passwords, or even people that have sticky notes on their computers can be definitely a big gap. And the last one is to survey your employees to identify weaknesses. So human error is a major cause of cyber attacks. Interviewing employees helps to identify risky behavior and correct bad practices. Asking questions like, and do this in more somewhat of a formal manner. You can send out a questionnaire internally and say something to the effect of, "Hey, do you know if what John's password is by chance? I just needed to get something off the network." And questions like that, can provide you a lot of insight into how your employees protect the environment and their understanding of security and what your corporate culture is actually to protect your intellectual information. But these tools I just mentioned are definitely not the end-all be-all. There's many factors and facets to security, even things like physical security, things like placing locks on your server room door, having network jacks in common areas that be protected or exposed, whichever way you want to look at it. Your Wi-Fi infrastructure, easy access to video surveillance equipment, courtesy phones, say in a foyer or in a greeting area in the lobby of your business, having VoIP or voice over IP telephony in place can provide somebody that's malicious all kinds of information that you may not want them to have. Pasting passwords on sticky notes, and many, many other aspects that should also be looked at. So just as a general overview, here are some steps for preparing and conducting an internal security review. So I've listed 7. These are the high-level 7. Once you get into them, they can get a little bit more in depth, but here's the primary ones that I put forth. So create a core assessment team. So create a task force of professionals from within your organization that includes, say, the owner, the manager, the CEO, the IT manager, if you have one in place, or the IT company, and heads of different teams in the functional areas if necessary. So this core team will lead an assessment, prepare the report, and suggest recommendations. So again, the framework of that is readily available. If you want expertise, by all means, a third party is always a good resource to assist you with going through the process. They don't have to do it all for you. I think the more people that have ownership in the actual practice of going through this, the better it is. And it shouldn't be a one-time exercise either. The second point is to review your existing security policies. So does your business your business may or may not have a security policy in place today. And if you don't have one now, it is the best time to create one. If you do have one, now's the time to review it to make sure it's still relevant. And any recent market changes or technology changes, things that you may have read about or heard about on the news, those are things that you may want to focus on to say, hey, listen, do we have something to mitigate if this was to happen to us? And your security policy should also cover your security strategies, your data backup plans, your password management policies, security update and patch timelines, and other related details. Now, there's a lot of important information I just mentioned regarding A is your backup. What's your backup scheme? What is your plan for backup? Which is one of the best means to unfortunately mitigate after the fact, but it is one of the best ways to recover from. Password management. How secure are your passwords, and what is the policies in place to ensure that they're being changed regularly, that there's a certain length, that there's special characters, upper and lower case, numbers, things like that to make it more difficult to guess passwords. And create a database of your IT assets. So prepare as a comprehensive database of all the software and hardware assets that you have within your company. And this includes the network, servers, desktop, laptops, software applications, websites, as much information as you can provide. Point of sale devices, personal devices that your employees use to check emails, external storage, all kinds of stuff. As much as detailed as you can get, the better it is, because then you can identify where there may be potential risk. For example, if your backup strategy today is to take hard drives off site, and it's every Friday, and you stop at Earl's to meet with somebody or some people, a group or friends or whatever, and at Earl's after work, and your hard drives are in the front seat of your car, and your car gets broken into, those hard drives disappear. What is the implication of that? What is the impact to your organization potentially? And understand the threats and vulnerabilities. So prepare a list of all the potential threats to your business that you may face based on the past experiences of your peers, latest threat trends, etc. Identifying the gaps in your system that these threats could potentially exploit. You can use IT security software that offers features such as vulnerability scanning and vulnerability alerts to identify weak points and in your applications and networks as well. So estimate the impact. And an example of that is what impact would a credit card data breach have on your business? So for example, if you do take customer credit card information and you store that, what would happen if that information was to be compromised and leak out to the outside world? And the impact could be in monetary terms, loss of clients or loss of brand value or credibility. Categorize the impact of a cyber attack as high, medium, or low based on the severity and the estimated costs. Determine the likelihood. So categorize the likelihood that each potential risk would happen as high, medium, or low. The risk level increases if the likelihood is high. And plan the controls. List the existing control systems in place and outline further actions that can help mitigate and identify risks. These controls can include a change in policies and procedures, application procurement, training, content and configuration, implementation of new appliances and or hardware, and employee awareness and training. Again, I'm going to harp on that a little bit. That is your first line of defense, probably the best. So here's an example of a risk assessment matrix that I put together just to show as an example. And it just outlines a potential risk to the business. So somebody accidentally emails a third party with the customer name and addresses from your CRM database, or somebody gains access to your CRM database. What is the impact of your business and of the clients and of the customers or vendors and everything else that you have in your CRM database? So, and what are the things that are in place today, and what is the gap, and what needs to be done in order to mitigate this moving forward? And once you complete your risk matrix, your next steps should be to prepare a report that summarizes your findings, take steps to implement the needed actions, and continually reassess and educate. It's an ever-evolving realism that you must continually address and combat cybersecurity. So many businesses face these challenges, as well as identifying and addressing some of the risks if you don't have a dedicated IT or cybersecurity team. So if you don't, please consult your trusted IT provider to assist with getting something in place and to help educate management and staff of the risks and getting a plan together to mitigate as much as possible. So ask yourself the question, do you need a security assessment? And that concludes our webinar for today. Again, I know this is a high level. It's intended to provide you some insights as to some of the best practices that should be followed in order to get something in place. And doing an assessment like this should be part of your disaster recovery plan, or DRP as it's known in the industry. And it's really a plan as to what to do in the event of something you never want to execute, but it's something that should be done regularly and it should be tested regularly. And, you should have everybody's buy-in and understanding as to what it means and how to execute in the time, unfortunately, if the event does occur. So thank you very much, everybody, for in attendance today, and hopefully we'll see you in a couple weeks' time. Thank you.